One last question on the World Cup, Gordon. Hydration breaks. Important for player safety or a money grab? Go.
Tim, love it. How about both?
Welcome to Wait What? Sports Biz Chat with DP and McGee, the podcast where we take a sometimes irreverent, sometimes cynical, and yes, even a sometimes serious look at the business of sports. I'm your co-host, Tim McGee.
And I'm David Parro.
David, what's on your mind this afternoon?
Well, besides trying to keep one eye on stuff going on at World Cup, we're recording this on a Tuesday afternoon, and Norway just beat 𝘬𝘰𝘤𝘬𝘴, one of the teams that we got to see during our field trip to Philadelphia, 2-1, and it was a great match. So World Cup continues to be great. But I'm going to start in not World Cup because there's a couple other big, I think, storylines going on. And while it's off season and we just completed a historic playoff for the NBA, Commissioner Adam Silver has a lot of things he's got to deal with, and he's going to have to comment in a pretty big way. And he's got to be he's got some headaches, if you ask me. The gambling issue NBA seems to be getting the worst of the scandals. We just had another indictment of players that had been under some suspicion, but indictments came down on this, 𝘬𝘁𝗍𝘄 being the most well-known of those, but also Ed Davis and an agent. And, we've talked about Adam Silver's stance. We know that he takes this seriously, and we know that betting on sports or putting yourself in position to affect games is clearly a no-no, and the people that have been caught have been removed from the league permanently, and 𝘬𝘁𝗍𝘄 likely will. But perhaps the prop betting in basketball is just that easy. Although if you look at any of the videos, you're doing overs on rebounds or unders on rebounds. Those were a couple of the prop bets that flagged the activity. And if you look at one where it was, he was supposed to go over on just 3.5 rebounds, and he's literally vying for every rebound he can get, including basically taking them away from Giannis in a game when he was with the Bucks. It seems to me so ridiculous, and points again to the fraught nature of all of this gambling stuff, no matter how many restrictions are on. And in Malik's case, he was basically trying to get out of debt because of his own gambling issues. So you know how deep it goes and how easy it is to affect that. And you've been very outspoken on these issues and your predictions and in other comments that you've made. So I wanted to get your thought, but this is one of several things that obviously Adam Silver has to deal with. But gambling seems to hit the NBA really hard.
Yeah, maybe because, as you mentioned, it is so easy on some of these prop bets, as opposed to players having less control except for the real skill positions in football. Yeah, we haven't seen the end. I mean, that's the only thing I'll say at this point. Maybe in this particular ring, but as long as there is greed, there will be people trying to game the system. It's interesting, the Kawhi Leonard investigation has been going on for about 9 months. Apparently that's close to being wrapped up. And so instead of being able to grab a couple of books and head out to the Hamptons, Adam Silver's going to have to turn his attention to this. And no rest for the weary, as they say. One scandal is about circumventing the rules for salary caps and so forth, which is, it's bad, but it's not illegal in the criminal sense, right? It's illegal from a rules perspective, but it's not illegal in a criminal sense. Whereas this gambling thing, if we are only seeing sort of the tip of the iceberg, he's going to have a lot of issues ahead of him.
Yeah. I think the Ballmer Clippers aspiration Kawhi Leonard thing is a huge moment for Adam Silver. And I don't know if he feels he needs to come down maybe harder than he thought. You'd like to think he's going to look at the facts that basically the not in-house counsel, but the firm that does these type of investigations for the NBA, but he'll take what he's learned and make a proper ruling on what it means. But more and more, has come out on this, and certainly led by Pablo Torre and his Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast. But it looked certainly pretty damning what was done. And now Kawhi Leonard is in potential trade talks to other teams, and I don't know if that factors into this, but it's a big moment for Adam Silver. There's no doubt about that. And then you have I didn't expect LeBron to announce that he wanted to leave LA to close out his career, and there's going to be a potential reshuffling on that. Apparently Golden State, Cleveland, Miami are the three teams that seem to have the most potential and are ones that he could probably make one final championship run with. I think it would be amazing if he went back to Cleveland and somehow put them back over the top. I don't know if he's that missing ingredient at this stage of his career, but that's big news for the league, certainly, and as the Lakers build their team around Luka.
Yeah, is he shopping for another championship, or is he going back to Cleveland, which I think would make them a contender for the championship next year. I will tell you this, Michael Jordan didn't go shopping for championships.
LeBron shopping for a championship.
Yeah, I was trying to be kind. But the West is going to look very different next year. If Kawhi Leonard is gone, and I'm not just saying if he's suspended, but he's a free agent. Draymond Green turned down an offer from the Warriors. LeBron is leaving the Lakers.
Yeah, well, if LeBron ends up at Golden State, what's the average age of that team would be, 64?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, but they would be great and would, they would have great players, but I think the most
Metamucil would be their jersey patch partner.
The most intriguing one would be Miami, where you got Bam, Adebayo, now Giannis, and LeBron, and he'd be reunited with Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, another big three in Miami.
The Kawhi thing, that's an interesting point you just raised. When it comes out, clearly Kawhi and his uncle, his advisor, probably knew the rules. If it is determined that this contract, this personal services deal with Aspiration was in fact a circumvention of the salary cap, is he liable? Is he penalized? Is he suspended as severely as the club? Now, obviously, they would be different because for the club it would be financial penalties, draft pick penalties, possibly, I think worst case scenario, a banning of Ballmer from ownership, which would be the second time Adam Silver would have to get rid of a Clippers owner. But it's but what's the penalty for the player in that? Is he just taking the money that the team's figuring out a way to throw to him? Can he plead? Does he have plausible deniability there?
I don't know. A lot of that has to do with the CBA, I think, probably. At the very least, if somebody's offering you a shit ton of money and not expecting you to do anything, you might want to ask some questions. Certainly a cause for concern if you're the player or his representative. One would think, one would hope.
What do you got top of your list?
Well, I can't stop watching the memes and the video clips of Sophie Cunningham pointing her finger. She's my new hero.
She's pretty hilarious.
That was such good trolling. Now, she claims that she started by pointing at the referee, but it went on for a good 20 or 30 seconds. So that's great. But on a more serious note, some things coming out. I read that Diana Rossini, the writer for The Athletic, was making $800,000 a year. That's insane.
I saw that, and my immediate question, was it all through The Athletic? Was that her salary from The Athletic?
I guess so. I guess. So if she's making $800,000, right, and I'm not passing judgment on whether she's overpaid or underpaid, because quite honestly, I wasn't very familiar with her work before any of this came out. Certainly wasn't familiar with her work the way Coach Vrabel was. But imagine how much somebody like Adam Schefter makes, or Jay Glazer. You're going to add 2 zeros, I would think, to those.
Well, and I'm not Schefter. I would say probably yes. The term insider, I don't know when that started. A good reporter should be an insider. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the term. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm old school.
That is how you describe.
But they're just taking injury reports. Glazer to me is like reporting what, before a game, and he sits back there. They don't even let him on the main part of the set. And I'm not saying he can't bring more, but that's the way they use him. And he sits there and he goes, so-and-so's playing. I just talked to so-and-so, and they said he's playing, he's suiting up. And it's like, that's what you got? You got the injury report? I mean, Clearly, Roussini was doing some pretty in-depth reporting. I mean, I'm sorry to say that. And I listen, I think she sets women in journalism, particularly in sports, back so freaking far.
I agree. Female sports journalists have faced an uphill climb for a long, long time. She stood on the shoulders of many who came before her, whether it's Linda Cohen or Jackie McMullen. You can name a lot of them, right? But they had to overcome so much to give opportunities to people like her, and then to do that, you don't get involved as a journalist. You don't get involved with the people you're covering on a personal level. It's just journalistic ethics. It's not. I'm not saying anything, controversial.
And we know stuff like that happens, and when it happens, because of the journalistic aspect, you disclose it, and it goes public, and you either end the relationship or you're off that beat.
Correct.
Now it's interesting because two women's sports reporters that I have good admiration for, Christine Brennan, who has been, I think, started going overboard in her protection of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, even though she wrote a book about it. And I agree with her stance about how important Caitlin has been to the WNBA. But she's overdoing it and making it seem like she's singularly the only thing happening in that sport. Christine Brennan is now at odds, big odds, with Sarah Spain, who's a Chicago-based person, so I'd followed her for a number of years, and I'm a big fan of hers. And Sarah Spain's been firing back big time at Brennan on her coverage for not giving due to those that have maybe come before in the WNBA and those that are current stars, like an A'ja Wilson or Breanna Stewart. So that is kind of a weird dynamic as well. But these are women, and not just because they cover women's sports, but they are legit reporters that look to get stories.
And do you know where Sarah Spain went to college?
I'm guessing Cornell.
That's right.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. Now, look at my color, by the way, today. This is my pre-4th of July red. not my Cornell red, but...
No, but we'll give it to you anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very surprising to me that she made that much money. You want to talk about our recent... road trip?
Yeah, we got to experience it. We did it. We got out on the road and saw the glory and the beauty of World Cup and made some new friends, and it was a great day.
It was. The weather was perfect. We like you said, we met a nice mother and son who won a lottery for tickets. They were from outside Toronto, and they came down. We had a lovely conversation with them. We sat among many of the Curaçao fans. I jokingly or half-jokingly said to you that the island must be empty because everybody from Curaçao was in the stadium in Philadelphia, but very small country, I think 160,000 residents on the island of Curaçao off the coast of South America. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. I want to give a shout-out to Kat Alario at 𝘓𝑚𝘴, who was kind enough to get us the tickets.
Everything was pretty great. Pricing was what we expected, maybe even a little higher on things. But what we got in, we got out. The staff was wonderful.
Yes.
Everybody that we needed to talk to was helpful. And the crowd, I think what we're seeing across, even what we're seeing on TV, what we're seeing in the cities where World Cup is playing in, is what sport at its best should be and what certainly global football can be. And I think there were some concerns about whether it would play out in the United States in particular, and it has. And like to your point, we were sitting amongst a great base of Curaçao fans that they lost the match to Côte d'Ivoire that day, and there was a huge contingent from Ivory Coast as well. And people were just joyful around the sport.
It was everything that is good about sport from our experience. You hear some some wonderful stories. The Japanese fans, despite losing yesterday, after having gone ahead against Brazil, kept up their tradition of cleaning up the stadium at the end of the match. The Jordanian team left gifts in the locker room in Dallas for the staff who helped them. Just wonderful stories that you hear like that make you, feel proud to be in this industry. And we can't take credit as sports marketers, but it's everything that's good and right about sport.
It absolutely is. I do think there is a little too much, in my view, being a fan of just the power of football, I guess. And I get it. It's kind of the Americanization of the game experience that it didn't really need, and people that are football fans kind of make their own experience. So you get the DJ blaring, you get that nonstop pumping of music every time through the PA system, where the noise generally enough. Now these stadiums, we were at Lincoln Financial where the Eagles play. It probably might not accept acoustically what, say, the normal chants might be or the noise of the crowd, but it would have been worth kind of seeing a try anyway. But that's not that big of a knock. It's just what it is, and I guess not a surprise that you're thinking there's going to be the typical American sports fan that may be coming because they want to see a World Cup match. But one of the things I've noticed is that there have to be neutral people in the audience, just from the hospitality and the corporate packages.
Sure.
But you end up picking a side one way or another. I will be totally honest. My expectation was that I was going to be pulling for Ivory Coast in that match for whatever reason. But since where we were sitting, it was like, nah, I'm kind of going to excitedly be cheering for Curaçao.
See, I was the other way. I rooted for Côte d'Ivoire, and for once in my life, I backed a winning team. But one thing that seems to be consistent across all stadiums is the booing of the hydration break that occurs approximately halfway through each half.
I think that's part of my point in a way, in that the audiences that are coming out seem to be very familiar with the game. It's more the people that are just engaging online and bitching about the offsides rule. I had someone say to me recently, I just don't get, and I don't like the offsides rule. It ruins the game. I'm like, do you know if you didn't have offsides in football, in soccer, how bad the game would be?
Yeah.
It would change the entire flow of the sport.
What that suggests, and I'll be kind here, is a lack of sort of sophisticated knowledge of the sport, number one. But it also suggests that they think they know what the sport would be like without that rule. And I think in reality what they're doing is they're comparing it to other sports where there is a fixed offside line, whether it be hockey or lacrosse, for example, two sports that come to mind in terms of offside rules. But it is part of what makes the sport the beautiful game. I will tell you one thing, the VAR officials really have gotten it down to a science. They're able to check on offsides very quickly so as not to disrupt the flow of the match, which is good.
Yeah, they are calling it super, super tight. I think there have been some semi-controversial ones, but with the VAR, they're playing it by the letter. And they're, listen, that Germany match last night, Monday night, that tough penalty on VAR. I mean, that was tough. That was probably a little bit soft to take away that one goal.
Yeah, especially when the goalie seemed to initiate the contact.
Yeah, if it was Wemby, they certainly wouldn't have called it. But they did, and they did it on review, so at least they said they looked at it.
Right, and ultimately Germany could not convert on two of their penalty kicks and lost. That's the other thing that sort of the uninitiated in soccer complain about, which is, what do you mean you decide matches with penalty kicks? Yeah, since the dawn of the game.
Yeah, anyone that says that to me now, 15, 20 years ago, I might have accepted that. I think I literally just go like, how stupid can you be? Watch it, understand it. It's beautiful. Right. It's one of the most exciting things. And you do not remember Brandy Chastain? Maybe they don't. They're too young.
The other thing is the people who say soccer's boring. Okay, then don't watch it. Just don't watch it.
Well, that's a perfect time to take a break. because we have a guest that's going to come on and talk to us a little more about this sport of soccer, and we'll be right back.
It's time for our guest.
As many of you know, we have some traditions on this show. Mostly, they're stupid. One, though, that isn't is speaking to someone in market during World Cup that can bring a unique perspective to what is happening. Today, we're joined by a longtime friend, one of the smartest sports marketers that I've ever worked with, Gordon Kane, who has been on the ground in Kansas City since group play began. Now, I should add that Gordon not only loves soccer, he knows global football inside and out. He started his career in brand management with a few CPG companies you may have heard of, Kraft and Procter & Gamble, but soon moved into sports marketing, where he built quite a legacy at places like groundbreaking agency Clarion, the USOC, where he served as director of marketing, Victory Sports Marketing, the advisory he founded, and MLS's San Jose Earthquakes. Now, we're happy to have him join us today to talk all things World Cup and hopefully a little more. So welcome to the show, Gordon. It's great to have one of my Chicago peeps on the show.
Long time listener, first time joining.
Well, we appreciate that for sure.
So, Gordon, the sports industry writ large was cautiously optimistic coming into this event in terms of how it would play out. In your estimation, has it met, exceeded, fallen short of expectations? Give us your thoughts on the World Cup now that we sit just past the halfway mark of the tournament.
Sure. I take with a grain of salt that I am literally in the middle of a bubble, right? I'm watching it get all the positivity out of it. So you've got to take that with a grain of salt. But I think it's exceeded. I think there are three reasons it's exceeded. First, can't underscore how important it's been that the U.S. has come out strongly. It's given people the opportunity to rally, and the further they go, the better. Second is, with all the talk about, and I could talk for hours about my feelings about FIFA's ticketing strategy. Not my favorite by any. The stadiums are absolutely full, and the stadiums are full of legit fans. The first game I saw, Lionel Messi scored a hat trick. The fans are coming out, en masse. The Dutch doing their walk down to the stadium has become, almost institutionalized. So I think that has exceeded expectations. And the third thing I would say is, knock on wood, and I really mean this, it's been incident-free, right? There's the thought of somebody, breaking a window or doing something bad, right, would give everybody the ammunition they need to say, aha, I knew this would turn up badly, right? I think the only criticism that I would have so far has been that we actually sent a Somali ref away, who was approved to referee the game. But that was an institutional decision. I mean, I think as far as the fans showing up and the locals showing up, they've been just amazingly well behaved, and it's been great to watch.
Yeah, I think we certainly have observed that as well, including our visit down to Philadelphia to take in a match. So we appreciate that. From a sponsor activation standpoint, at least there in Kansas City, what have you seen that excites you? What's impressed you? Where have some of the misses been?
Yeah, let's start with here's the positive and the negative. The positive is we are now soccer-focused advertising by corporations, right? That's progress. Having said that, I find a lot of the TV commercials prosaic. I'm a little disappointed that I know that Christian Pulisic now uses a credit card to go get a cup of coffee. I know that Messi would rather play for a Michelob Ultra. I know that David Beckham has picked up his backyard, but none of those are really kind of jumping out at me as great television commercials that are capturing the World Cup. So I think some of the commercials have been a little disappointing, and I think the lack of new stars being used is also a little disappointing. I think Messi is in something like 18% of all World Cup ads. He's a phenomenal player, I get it, but can we get beyond that? Can we maybe bring the world Kylian Mbappe? Can we bring the world Erling Haaland? Can we bring them some soccer players from the U.S. team that maybe they don't know? Balogun, et cetera. There's plenty of folks there for advertisers to use, and I think they've been a little conservative in the way that they've done that. On the ground, I would say having said, I'm a little disappointed that David Beckham's fixing his backyard with Home Depot. The Home Depot stuff at the Fan Fest is outstanding. It's a brilliant strategy of, I've got all these potential young homeowners that maybe don't know too much about Home Depot or don't use Home Depot. So to basically build a house at a Fan Fest and let fans go through it and see, oh, wow, here's all the opportunities, ways that Home Depot can enhance my house. It's really, really incredibly well done. On the myth side, if I may, Volkswagen's been a sponsor of the U.S. men's national team for a long time. The U.S. men's national team is having a moment, and Volkswagen is running ads with kids in the back of a station wagon and then putting a tag at the end of the ad that we're a proud sponsor of the U.S. men's national team. I consider that a miss, right? I think we would all agree. I think we're beyond the run a regular commercial and then just proud sponsor of in the last 5 seconds. So I'm a little disappointed by that. But I would also be remiss if I didn't say some of the most creative stuff is because of FIFA's overreach in trying to defend against ambushment, an opportunity for Levi's to run rings around them, an opportunity for Heinz. I would be interested in your take. I find it absolutely absurd that someone would go into a stadium and cover up the Heinz logo on a ketchup bottle. I always thought it was a condiment. Heinz has come out with a ketchup bottle now with the masking tape over their own logo and manufactured. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it was an opportunity created by FIFA, which is the absurdity of it all. So, second is with all this ticketing strategy, which is the absurdity of it all. So,
as the French philosopher Voltaire famously said, common sense is not so common. We know that you've been, in a bubble, so to speak, in your terms. But what do you think the legacy of this World Cup will mean for the sport of soccer here in the United States? And will it have a significant impact on professional soccer in this country, particularly MLS, but USL, NWSL, and so forth?
I think, 3 things level of importance. One is the significance of building, right? The rest of the world runs up that system. We have tended not. We have this pay-to-play model. Messi was found by Barcelona at 13, right? We don't have a system to find a 13-year-old and turn and find the next Messi. I think there will be considerable investment coming out of this in, academies being established so that we can find the right talent at a younger age and put them through a system. So I would say that's probably the most important legacy, is that we continue to build academies. And I'll give you kind of the hot take, if you will. I'll stick my neck out on this. Right now, MLS has a college draft at the end of every year. I predict within 10 years that will be irrelevant. That there won't be any players playing in MLS who've come out of college, because if we're finding talent at 21, it's too late, right? So looking at all this young talent, I think MLS teams are going to say we need to double down on academies. Second benefit of this is the number of casual fans that have been brought inside the tent. I found it interesting, here in Kansas City, over 65,000 people have been to Fan Fest, and they're estimating that over 55% are locals, and another 35% are from within the state and within the domestic area. Only 15% of them are international. So that tells me on a regular basis, 20 to 25,000 locals are watching soccer in the Kansas City area every game. Those people can be converted, and hopefully they will be converted. And then the third is the softest of all, but I'll just throw it out there. Can we please learn some songs? Can we please learn some chants? Can we get beyond I Believe We Will Win, right? I mean, some of the songs, some of the ways these people, the Norwegians doing their rowing, that kind of stuff is just fabulous to watch. And we bring that into stadiums rather than go team go. So hopefully that's tertiary, but hopefully that's a benefit also.
No, I think that's an important one. We were actually talking, Gordon, before you joined the show about the need or the thought that there was a need to Americanize the fan experience at these venues and pump in the DJ nonstop and cranking the tunes. And it's like, the crowd at a soccer match generally should carry that experience. And it doesn't mean that there aren't two sides to that, because clearly there are fans from both sides at every match. And we learned this when the World Cup was in Qatar in 2022. We had Chris Perlman on, and from Qatar. That's the tradition I spoke of during the introduction. And he said, "Yeah, we're not so good. We're not." And he was all dressed up like, in his USA gear, like Captain America. But he's like, "Yeah, we're not so good. We're not so good at the chants." He goes, but people were there and they were in their, in their attire and so forth. But yeah, that's the one thing that I've always noticed about, being at a football match, particularly outside of this country, but including at MLS matches where there's a good supporter group, is that experience is really driven by the fans, not by a pumped-in DJ, right?
Yeah.
I did want a quick follow-up on the point about ambush as well, because, I've seen a lot of, well-respected sports marketers that we all know, talk about ambush, and it's like, you how wrong it is because you work so hard. It's like, I don't see it. I at one point in my career thought I should open up I probably have told both of you this at one time or another, open up an agency completely focused on legal ambush, like ambush that doesn't cross the line of IP stealing, but literally just takes advantage of opportunities in the cultural moment. And these guys are on the stadium, so it's not that far a reach. So for people to get mad at them that are in this business seems to be a little ridiculous to me.
One last question on the World Cup, Gordon. Hydration breaks. Important for player safety or a money grab? Go.
Tim, love it. How about both, to a degree? So let me define it. Let me define the answer. The safety of the athletes is absolutely critical. And just to put a fine point on it, just so that you appreciate what these guys are going through. Let's say you just went through a full season at the Premier League, and maybe you played Champions League football also. Your body is pretty shot. You got about 1 week before you were late for training camp to go to your national team, go to the biggest tournament of your life in 90-degree heat, right? So anything that we could do to make sure that those people are safe and hydrated is legitimately important. Now, having said that, when it's 72 degrees and pouring with rain, you don't need a hydration break. And so the fact that they've said we're going to do hydration breaks at everything is a money grab. They have basically created a quarter system, which to the soccer fan is really, really hard to take. I do not need a 3-minute break at the 23rd minute. That hurts my soul. That's not what this thing is about. So, if it's 90 degrees and you want a glass of water, all for it. Let's find a way to have you do that. But I don't need this to be sponsored by Powerade, and I don't need them to go right to commercial breaks. That's not the game.
And I agree with what you say 100%. Is there an argument to be made that if you're going to have hydration breaks during certain matches, you have to have them during every match to ensure that all matches are played under the same conditions to the extent that they can be?
I get that. I'd rather have, if it is truly about the weather, I'd rather have the weather drive the decision than FIFA.
Well, I'm sure in Kansas City, the matches that you have witnessed, that the fans let their thoughts be known on the hydration break.
Yeah, they're pretty much food.
That's so great.
Yeah, love it.
Well, as I mentioned also during the introduction, that you've spent a lot of time working in football, and you know it, but there's a lot of other components to your life and your career, and we were hoping to be able to spend a little time on those as well. You spent a good deal of your career working in Olympic marketing, both on the property side and on the agency side. Coming off of this year's Winter Games in Milan Cortina, and obviously with LA 28 right around the corner, how would you characterize the current state of the Olympic movement?
I think it's in pretty good hands. I think it's pretty solid. As you look towards LA, when they came out of the boat, they got a longer lead time. If you recall that both Paris and LA were selected at the same time, so LA got a longer lead time. But $2.5 billion sponsor revenue goal. The games are in 2028. They're over 2 billion right now, with some great brands, Google and people like that coming, Starbucks coming, the Olympic movement. So I think they're in pretty good shape. It wasn't your question, but what am I excited about when it comes to LA 2028? I think we're waking up in the United States to new sports. I wouldn't say that soccer's a new sport, but I think we're waking up to soccer. The sports that I think could have a coming out, I think rugby is, if you were to take them in rank order, soccer is already fairly well developed. Rugby is being developed, but cricket, flag football, I think they potentially are gonna have their moments in LA, and I'm really interested to see if that starts a new wave of investment in those sports.
Your son Kevin is carving out a nice career for himself. So our question is this: did he really have a choice?
I would say yes. I've told people we were probably the nerdiest sports dinner table around because what most people were saying is this quarterback better than this quarterback. We were sitting and talking about, is Don Garber doing a good job with MLS? What's the expansion, etc.
You guys should have started a podcast. It's nothing more to what we started. Kidding.
So Kevin's had this, funneled into his brain, but yeah, he's crushing it, and more power to him. And there is nothing better than going to an event, having spent 35 years in the sports marketplace, and have somebody come up to you and go, "Oh, you're Kevin's dad. What do you do for a living?" Love that, right? Love that. He is charting his own course and kicking butt, and I'm thrilled for him. So.
Yeah, I know he is a huge football fan. In fact, he started his career working in that space as well. But he's an impressive young man that is doing great work. So congratulations on that.
And he's got his mom's brains, thank God.
We know you're a budding writer, but we want you to, not just on that, anything that you want to bring us up to date on. We know you're involved in in the education and in the sports management side. Bring us up to date on anything that you're working on that's important to you. We know you've been heavily involved in CARA, which is the Chicago Area Runners Association. Tim, I don't know if you know this. Serious runner, Gordon is. He never stops.
Yeah.
But yeah, bring us up to speed on the writing, the academia, whatever you want, Gordon.
I really appreciate it. Budding writer, you said, is probably stretching the term budding, but I have written a thriller, surprise, surprise. It's in the soccer space. It's not an on-field, it's behind the scenes. It would take everybody about 3 minutes to figure out which team I kill the owner of. Take that as how that might be meant. It is in the hands of about 10 agents right now. I'm trying to get it traditionally published. And my goal is to walk into Barnes & Noble and go, "Oh, great, you've got my book. Can I sign it for you?" So that path is basically like learning a new industry. And I could do a whole pod on how does one go about getting a book published. The only problem is I haven't done it. It would be a bad pod, but I'm learning this industry. The other thing I'm doing is going around and doing some teaching gigs. I've basically got 3 templates. I can talk about the Olympics, I can talk about MLS, and I can talk about world soccer. And so in a perfect world moving forward, I would be combining a book tour with going to universities in cities and making presentations. Presentations during the day, book tour at night would be kind of a great second chapter for me. So if you're a university professor out there and you need someone to come chat with you about MLS or the Olympics, I'm your person. If you also own a bookstore, that would be good.
We have a number of traditions on this show, another one of which is we ask these 2 questions of all our guests, Gordon. So before we let you go, the first one is,
where'd your career get started? Where'd you start it?
Yeah, it was, and it gets to the second question that I know you're going to ask. So because I've watched the show, I know what's coming.
You're the listener. Okay.
He says that every time someone says that.
I'm buying it. As David kind of said in the intro, I really went the traditional marketing perspective, right? I got the opportunity to work for Procter & Gamble. I went to Kellogg to get my master's degree. I became a brand manager at Kraft. I genuinely thought selling processed cheese to America was a great career. I genuinely loved it. So much so that when someone called up, I ended up working for a gentleman named Rick Dudley, who went on to greater things once he separated from me. And he said, I need brand marketers, I need brand managers to get into this space, right? We are running into a situation where Coca-Cola is paying so much for the rights that they're asking questions that the properties can't answer. So it's like if Coke comes into the NFL, and I'm not picking on the NFL, back in the day, and says, I need some sort of market segmentation analysis. And the NFL would answer like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I do have really good Super Bowl tickets for you. Rick was like, we can bridge that gap. You can bring marketing skills to this environment. So with that, I think of myself as a marketer and brand manager and manager first. And I think of sports as my vehicle by which I use those trades. And I would tell you, not a day goes by when I don't use something that I've learned from Procter & Gamble or Kraft and now apply to this environment, which if Tim, I'll let you ask the second question, but I'm going to feed right into it. Go for it.
Thank you, Gordon, because I am nothing if not a creature of habit. What one piece of advice would you have for somebody looking to break into the industry?
I would play right off of what I just said. I know you guys are the same, right? I probably 2-3 times a month, maybe more, I get somebody saying, my brother, my cousin, my next door neighbor, they want to get into sports. Would you mind chatting with them? Right? And I always say yes, because play it forward is a fair thing. I've benefited greatly from this area of expertise and want to share it with anybody that I can. But I cringe when the first statement I get from somebody trying to get into sports is, I love sports, right? Like I could tell you every stat about the 2023 New York Yankees, right? So I desperately want to get into sports. Rick used to have an answer to that, which is, if you love sports that much, buy a season ticket. There are plenty of them available. I don't know the stats about the 23 Yankees, and I'm not embarrassed by that. I could go, 2 players deep on the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? I am not a sports junkie from the standpoint of stats and players and all that kind of stuff. What I am is somebody that really is excited about marketing and management and really sees sports as a great opportunity for marketing and management. And so the advice that I give to a youngster trying to get in is sports and that next word, sports management, sports analytics, sports, whatever, that sports coaching. It's that second word that's the most important word, not the first word. Tell me what it is. Sports finance, right? Great. Tell me about your financial expertise, and then we'll see if there's a role for you within sports. So my counsel is, if you ever get the opportunity to chat with me, and I'm happy to do it, about your career, I want to know the second word after sports, not that you love sports.
We appreciate that. It's great advice, and you framed it in a nice, unique way. And since we don't have a musical introduction to the second question, but we do to the first, we're running the entire thing. Gordon, we appreciate you taking some time while you're there in market. It's awesome that you've been able to do this and be able to spend some time with family out there and seeing some great football in America's heartland. Thanks.
You bet. Absolutely adore being on this. So thanks for all that you guys do, right? I mean, you've gotten you've scraped the bottom of the barrel now, but in the past you've had some really
By the way, Dudley promised me that he would come on at one point, but I think he's gone. I can't even track him down anymore, but maybe someone will tell him.
Got to get on that golf course and get him at the turn. Thanks.
back following a fun discussion with Gordon Kane there on the ground in Kansas City, updating us on what he's seen there World Cup wise. That was a fun discussion. It's always great to connect with Gordon. We are at the time of the show where we do a number of things. We give shout outs, we give corrections, we grade ourselves on predictions. We do whatever we really care to. Mostly we take a look at what we are looking forward to. So Tim, what do you have your eye on?
David, what's the opposite of a shout out? Is it a shut up?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we just coined that phrase.
Yeah.
So I've got two shut ups. One is Dave Portnoy, founder of Barstool Sports, who is just so upset from his enclave up in Massachusetts with New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani that he's thinking about running for office. Stop. Just stop. Stick. We could choose our own pizza. Okay, please.
Is this bringing it up from a Barstool Sports experience, or was there a sports thing that he is, or he's just mad because Mamdani won?
Yeah, he's just mad because he's another guy who thinks Mamdani is a communist.
All right.
1950 called. They want their pejorative back. Anybody who uses the term communist obviously does not know what the word means, number one. The second shut up goes to Jackson Dart, and not for the reason that a lot of people are telling him to shut up. He introduced Trump at a recent rally in New Jersey. Jackson Dart believes that the moon landing was faked. He is not endearing himself to New York football fans with stupid takes like that.
Is he is he hanging with Bryson DeChambeau? Is that where?
Well, if he is, maybe Bryson can talk some sense into him, because if you remember, Bryson believes the landing was real. It's the photos that came back that were fake because, AI was so advanced in 1969.
There's a fine line between stupid and brilliant. That's
boy.
Spinal Tap reference.
Yes, I
know you
that.
knew it. I know you knew it, but
right.
in my bad British accent.
What I'm looking forward to, not surprisingly, U.S. versus Bosnia-Herzegovina, and not just for the regular fandom reasons. I obviously want to see the U.S. move on to the round of 16, but the Paraguay match, which was the first match in the group stage, drew 18 million viewers. I'm not sure about the Australia match, but 17 million for the 𝘚𝘰𝘤𝘏 match. So a couple things. I expect that number to be bigger, and that's NFL numbers, regular season game numbers. But my question to you is, when did we start referring to it as 𝘚𝘰𝘤𝘏? Did we start doing it at the same time we started calling the planet Uranus and not Uranus?
I was going to ask you. I was going to mention that, proud of you for doing the newly approved pronunciation. I guess, listen, I'm a believer that country should be pronounced the way a country wants to be pronounced.
Of
just
course.
like kind of a name. But yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere to me too. But
yeah, but part and parcel with that is Nike apparently misjudged the interest in U.S. MNT jerseys. They're running out in a lot of locations, and if the U.S. plays through to the round of 16, beats Bosnia-Herzegovina, there's going to be an even bigger shortage.
And I heard that the Mexican team, Mexico, is the jersey that's like flying off the shelves now. Yeah, I just saw that news today that their jerseys are pacing ahead or moving ahead.
Pretty cool jersey, L3. The green one. I like the green one.
I've loved seeing I have to say, loved Côte d'Ivoire's kits. Norway played in the white today, but I love their general dark blue with their flag image on their kits. The kits have been great to see. Maybe you don't know, but I'm a City fan, so yeah. I like Holland. But he looks like a Bond villain. He does. Yeah, but he picked up the winning goal today. You mentioned this about Messi, like sitting around and doing something, and the commentators were saying they got to get him the ball, but he doesn't play with the ball on his foot like Messi does. He's a completely different style of player. And
he's a finisher.
I know 𝘚𝘰𝘤𝘏𝑗, by the way, in my commentary, but he just finishes. He just is always in the right spot, and he's so physically, like he can command the space, and he's irrepressible.
That was the exact term the announcer used after he scored. But I got a little bit scared because he just tapped that ball and the goalie almost made it back to make the save.
Yeah.
There was no force on that ball when he put it in the net.
But if he did try to apply the force, he seems to know what he needs to do with each finish.
Far be it from me to tell him how to finish. I just, as a viewer, I got a little bit nervous. He was so close to the goal. He would not have missed the goal.
I don't think so, but he might not have gotten the touch on it that he needed to score the goal.
It may have gone off to the right.
I think he's a brilliant. What needs to be taken in the moment. Well, I thought you were going to give maybe a shut up to the Homeland Security Secretary who decided to announce that he liked the fact that Iran was out of the tournament, and there's a conflict going on with Iran, but for anyone in the government to make a comment about who he wants or doesn't want to survive in the tournament seems to be a bad use of a secretary's time and effort and thought, even though, yes, the government has to be involved, including, in particular, Homeland Security Department in this tournament. But I thought that was a little bit ridiculous.
He's a plumber and a mixed martial artist.
There's nothing wrong with being a plumber.
My point is that he does not have the requisite expertise to be the director of Homeland Security.
Well,
and you thought you were going to be the one who said something controversial.
Who goes political this episode. Yeah, obviously, in addition to watch the matches, we've got great matches going on the rest of today. Obviously, we will know if the USA moves on to the round of 16 by the time this episode publishes. British Grand Prix, always interestingly on 4th of July weekend, is a race that I always look forward to. So I'm excited about watching that. A story that I think hasn't gotten as much attention as it will over time is the FIA, which is the governing body, the global governing body for autosport, and their leader, the president, MBS, Mohammed bin Sulayem, not that MBS, by the way, another MBS, pushed for and received with a near unanimous vote the elimination of term limits for the presidency, meaning he will get reelected again and again, and then will probably change the rule that says you can't be elected after the age of 70. I'm guessing he will try to change that. The reason I think this is important is that there have been a lot of bashing between the commercial group Formula One or Formula One Management, which Liberty Media owns, and the governing body. And I just see more things coming to a head. I don't think that MBS has been good for leadership. I think there have been too many controversies with the way some of the races are ruled. And I just see more clashes down the road that I don't think will be good given what Formula One thrives on, which is that commercial engagement. I just hate that for the sport. Secondly, big story that I think will have some impact on NBC's ability to land some of these rights. NBC, Universal, and Peacock, for that matter, maintaining NFL rights, I think, will be in the biggest focus, and that is that Comcast has announced that it's basically spinning off into two separate companies: Comcast, the cable and connectivity company, and NBC Universal / Peacock, the content company. Can Peacock compete on its own without Comcast backing for NFL rights against Amazon or Netflix or Apple? I don't think so. But we'll see, right? I think that'll be a big story that we are going to have to deal with. And of course, as I said when mentioning the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, it's 4th of July, so I'm hoping to have a fun 4th of July. Tim, I'm hoping you have a fun 4th of July, and wishing that on everyone. But I'll let you do the close and give those thoughts.
Is it your turn to close?
No, is it? It's my turn to close.
Yeah,
that was a good close then. That's the start of a good close.
Okay, well, edit
so I'll
it.
do it.
I'll
finish that close. Happy 4th of July to everybody in the United States celebrating. And thank you again to Gordon Kane. I guess the point of that is that our show just runs so seamlessly that we just forget where one thing starts and one thing ends and where we start again.
Like a snake eating itself.
And Tim, thanks. That was it was fun talking, and again, thank you for the World Cup experience. I had a blast last week with that. I'm glad we were able to talk about that. Mostly, thank you to the listeners. We enjoy doing this. We hope you enjoy it enough to engage with us and share it. and hit those likes and subscribe buttons when you have a chance. We do appreciate it. You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and of course at dpandmcgee.com. So until next time, I'm DP, he's McGee, and we'll talk soon.
Next to you.